correctly and make the changes at the right time to be able to outsmart Ashton. But I don't think there's much point in waiting around. Let's get right into this game because I want to see exactly how it's going to go down in this losers bracket and see who's going to be staying in the competition.
Yeah, I think the leads are super important in this game. We see Snorlax and Venusaur on Wolf's side of the field, matched by the Togekiss and Excadrill. Seeing Snorlax in the lead, not really a shock. Most players want a belly drum, get it set up, and get moving with it as soon as possible. But that Togekiss could make life a little bit harder for him, I think. Just things like redirection, keeping his Excadrill nice and healthy, could cause some potential problems.
Yeah, exactly. Togekiss can be such a problematic Pokemon here. We've seen before it's holding that helping hand as well, so it can potentially deal some big damage helping out that Excadrill. But like you said, the one thing you ought to be worried about if I'm Ashton here is that Snorlax setting up its belly drum and then putting itself into a really big offensive pressure. With the support of that Venusaur, if it wants to go for some sleep powders and start shutting down some of Ashton's team, it's going to be in prime position to do so.
Yeah, and we've seen Ashton is not afraid to just start using this Togekiss to the max. I mean, having an Earthquake Pokemon next to a Flying type is not new to the video game championships. It's just super effective damage in the fact that you don't hit your partner Pokemon, but you do hit the Pokemon on the other side of the field, and we see some good damage going down on that Venusaur with a critical hit.
Yeah, the critical hit here really helping out, but the Venusaur is holding a berry, which is not the most common option on that Pokemon, but finds to be really useful here for Wolf. As well as the Togekiss did not go for any damaging attacks, it's going to fall victim to the sleep powder, so won't be able to follow me away. Anything the next turn. Oh wait, no. Togekiss says no, Lou. I've got a Lumberry here, so Togekiss manages to wake up, will be able to redirect that again, protecting Excadrill on the next turn, as Snorlax goes for the belly drum, again eats a berry. Basically everyone here has got a berry except for Excadrill, and Snorlax is able to regain its health up a little bit more. So if you're Ashton here, you're sitting down against a really offensive pressure on the Snorlax. You need to be able to pick up a clean KO against that before it starts picking away at your team, but you have to fear the Venusaur putting something to sleep. The Lumberry's gone on Togekiss now.
Yeah, the Venusaur is now a little bit more of a threat. You can't do the same cheeky play where you follow me away the sleep powder and manage to keep your Excadrill safe there. Obviously, you want to do that a number of times and keep that Earthquake damage coming down, but as soon as this Snorlax Gigantamaxes, it's a lot harder to deal with. Obviously, the increase in health, even though its health is lowered, does make it a bit of a handful, especially after this belly drum. It looks like Wolf knows that he's going to be a problem if he Gigantamaxes it and just kicks off the turn with the obvious.
Exactly, even though Snorlax doesn't have sort of the maximum HP that you really wanted to have when you click that Dynamax button, it really is too good an opportunity to miss if you want to start dealing out that big offensive pressure, and it forces Ashton to really make sure he's targeting it down. Togekiss goes for the helping hand. I feel like there's just going to be an Earthquake coming right out here from the Excadrill. That's exactly what we see. Going to deal some damage to both of the opposing Pokemon on Wolf's side, and it doesn't even need the critical hit here against the Venusaur thanks to the helping hand to cleanly pick up the KO, removing the threat from Sleep Powder. But due to the bulk of Snorlax, it's able to hang around and go for a G-Max replenish into the Excadrill, bringing it right down to 1 HP thanks to the Focus Sash.
Yeah, and I think that Focus Sash is essential here. Obviously, the Togekiss is still on the field. He's going to be able to keep helping hand. Didn't get caught by a sleep powder in that turn. And really nice turn there for Ashton. Even though the G-Max replenish did hit Excadrill, it's still on the field. He did a good amount of damage to that Snorlax as well with the helping hand boosted Earthquake. And might be in range to just pick it up this turn. Even something like an Ally Switch, one of those tricks that Dusclops likes to carry, isn't going to be able to keep it safe. And I love what Ashton's done with his lead here. He's bought something that can, redirect, keep him in the game, and then boost his damage with a spread attack, which is really kind of hard for a team like Wolves that relies on stuff like Ally Switch to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, again, if you're Ashton, you have to worry about that Dusclops, because Wolf is sort of in the position where he could go for a Max Guard and set up the Trick Room here. And I don't feel like a combination of both Togekiss and Excadrill will be enough to pick up the KO against that really bulky Dusclops. And that's exactly what Wolf is going for here, going for that Max Guard straight away, just protecting the Snorlax from taking any damage in this particular turn. Of course, Dusclops is going to have to take some of that Earthquake, but thanks to its immense bulk, able to take that like a champ, but will also be yawned by the Togekiss. So at the end of the next turn, it will be falling asleep if Wolf decides to leave it on the field, but I think Dusclops has done its job here. It's got the Trick Room up. That puts Snorlax in a great position to go for its final Dynamax turn and deal out some big damage and sort of protect the Dusclops in the sense that it could safely switch out while Snorlax deals out some big damage.
Yeah, that max guard is absolutely essential. Being able to keep it around while Trick Room goes up, you know that there's no really easy way to deal with something like that Dusclops. It is just so bulky, and it really just shrugs off the Earthquake. Yes, it wasn't helping hand boosted. Yes, it wasn't as powerful as it could have been, but there's no way the Excadrill is really going to be given a chance to move. It's sitting on 1 HP. It's pretty easy to knock out with anything that does damage, and then you're going to be able to keep on going. Also, the more turns that you leave Wolf Snorlax able to potentially G-Max replenish and get its berry back, that starts to cause a number of problems. It's not going to start that though. Does fear the Togekiss a little bit more, just cleaning it up and getting a lovely boost to its stats as well.
Yeah, the defense boost as well, really going to help out the Hatterene that just switched in here. It's a Pokemon that doesn't like taking physical attacks, particularly from that Excadrill that has gone for an Iron Head into the predicted switch in, manages to survive thanks to the defense boost there. So Snorlax not only picking up a KO against the Togekiss that could cause him some problems with that redirection and the yawn, but also helps Hatterene come in relatively safely.
Yeah, and I think that's a good prediction. You know, even though that turn didn't really go in Ashton's favor, losing the Togekiss, he did manage to take advantage of the fact that he'd yawned the Dusclops. He knew there'd potentially be a switch. We've seen it a lot this tournament. As soon as things get yawned, they don't stay in. Players in this tournament have been really aware of falling asleep, making sure they switch out as soon as possible on that following turn. And nice prediction to get that damage down. Of course, there is now the issue of the Trick Room to get through. The Hatterene, not as big a threat, because it's not going to be able to Gigantamax itself, but it's still going to be able to cause some problems, and it's still a Pokemon that functions really, really well in Trick Room. I do like the bring of the Dragapult here. I do like the fact that, if you don't have a Dark-type move on Snorlax, it can be quite nasty to try and handle, but this Hatterene's going to help that out significantly.
Yeah, you saw Ashton there really debating about whether he wanted to bring Incineroar or Dragapult into this particular match. Bringing the Dragapult, like you said, really does apply some pressure to the Hatterene and doesn't have to fear too much from that Snorlax if it's not packing a Dark-type move. Ashton, however, decides to bring the Incineroar anyway, switching it in for that Excadrill, wants to preserve it for maybe later on in the game when Trick Room is over, and it just gets an Intimidate off against that Snorlax, bringing down its firepower by a little smidge, while also going for the Dynamax on the Dragapult. Now, this is interesting. Dragapult's not really a Pokemon you tend to see in Trick Room.
No, not at all. It's really not its favoured kind of field that it wants to play in. It's a very fast Pokemon, and it really wants to deal that damage before anything gets the chance to hit it. That said, we've talked about if Snorlax doesn't have a Dark-type move, it could struggle a little bit, but he's just going to play it safe and max guard. We did see a little bit, obviously, on Marcus's side, that lacking that Dark-type move gave this Dragapult more chance to keep playing its own game. So maybe that's what he's setting up for in the next turn with this Snorlax coming into play. Or the Incineroar coming into play to help with the Snorlax. My apologies.
Yeah, well, Incineroar there, able to hang out on the field. Obviously got the Intimidate off previously and manages to take the Iron Head from that Snorlax, and it's free to now go for a Fake Out into either one of these Pokemon. Often you see Hatterene paired up with Indeedee, so Psychic Terrain's in play, but not in this current situation. So Incineroar can again try and stall through another Trick Room turn here for its buddy Dragapult. Of course, the other thing as well with this Dragapult packing something like a weakness policy, if the Hatterene wants to maybe go for that double target and go for the Dazzling Gleam, maybe in its Dynamax form, that Dragapult will be able to survive, get the weakness policy proc, and then hang out for another turn to start dealing out some really big damage. But it's going to really come down to these Trick Room turns and how both of these players utilise them.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure riding on this Dragapult, I think, for Ashton to try and give him that kind of late-game fight back when something like the Trick Room ends, or even to prevent the Trick Room going back up as we see the Dusclops coming into play. The Fake Out, keeping that Snorlax from dealing huge damage once again. And this Max Phantasm could start to cause problems for Wolfe.
Yeah, that was a beautiful turn there by Ashton. He calls the target correctly on the Fake Out. Of course, if he targeted the other slot, obviously his Dusclops switches in, and his Ghost type, so it really would have been to no avail there. And by stopping Wolfe for going for any damage, he's able to go for that big Max Phantasm, nearly picks up the KO against that opposing Dusclops. And like you said, just really puts Dragapult into the position where if Trick Room starts being whittled away, it's going to be able to pick up some clean KOs when you look at the reduced health of the Pokemon on Wolfe's side.
Yeah, I mean, the reduced health, the drop to their defenses from the Max Phantasm as well, does make things a lot easier to tidy up. So I think Ashton just looking to get towards the end of the Trick Room and then really, tidy up the end of the game before Wolfe gets a chance to reset up Trick Room and refight back. the Snorlax has been on the field the whole game. I think that's interesting to bear in mind. And it's still, knocking around with a really high attack stat from that early belly drum. So he's relying on it so much. And I think if there's a way that he can get that to attack again in Trick Room, he should be able to tidy up. But Ashton putting himself in a great position and reading this taunt fantastically.
Yeah, reading the taunt, going straight for the Flare Blitz into the Snorlax. Like we said previously, you need to be able to take down these Snorlaxes before they start dealing out some really big damage. And thanks to the reduced defense there as well, able to pick up the clean KO as Trick Room ends. So although this Dragapult has kind of been protecting for most of its Dynamax turns, it's got through that Trick Room, it's got through the tricky situation, and both of Dragapult and Incineroar can attack both of the Pokemon on Wolf's side of the field right now easily for a KO.
Yeah, I mean, that's such fantastic play. Bringing in that Dragapult, Dynamaxing it in a very awkward and precarious situation, but knowing that you're going to have 2 max guards to keep yourself safe, it's already at full health. Looks like Wolf's last roll of the dice is going to be that infamous ally switch.
Yeah, just going for that little bit of confusion where he can get it, as the Dragapult does go for the Dragon Dance. Of course, only going to target into that Dusclops there thanks to the Fairy typing, but the Flare Blitz doesn't really mind what type you are, Hatterene. It's going to be able to pick up the KO, meaning Ashton's going to be able to take game 1 in a really great fashion. Despite the Trick Room, he's able to reposition and take game 1 here.
Yeah, and I think a really well-played game from Ashton there. It's interesting to know, I think...
Yeah, exactly. Game 2 is certainly going to be very interesting to watch, because if Wolf does not manage to take this back and push it to a game 3, he will be out of the Invitational. But Wolf here going to lead out with a classic combination of Dusclops and Snorlax, whereas Ashton has gone for Togekiss Excadrill once again. So Wolf once again really trying to push hard on that Trick Room, but Ashton's going to do everything he can to try and stop that happening.
Yeah, and I think this leads a little more kind of upping the tempo from Wolf. Last game, he tried to slow things down with the Venusaur, get some things to sleep, and Ashton showed he had a way around that with the Lumberry and the Follow Me. So really smart in that regard. So I do like Wolf's change here. I like him saying, you know what I'm going to do. You know I'm going to belly drum and Trick Room. So, hey, maybe we'll just try and find an answer to that. And we'll see if that's exactly what he goes for. But Ashton can probably see that coming and starts to try and play around that a little bit himself.
I love this play here by Ashton, because if you're predicting your opponents go for Belly Drum and Trick Room, those moves do absolutely no damage, means your Excadrill is safe on the field, its Focus Sash is going to be preserved, you are literally safe to go for the Swords Dance, because if you haven't really got a way to stop Trick Room, you're going to let it go up, but try and give yourself the best advantage as that happens. This is exactly what we're seeing come out here from Wolf. Of course, we saw as well the Yawn come out there from the Togekiss. Now that's going to put the Snorlax in a predicament about whether it Dynamaxes or switches out.
Yeah, I do like that Yawn, actually. Even though you know the Trick Room's going up, you really don't have a way to fight back against it. So you just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to limit your potential turns. And that might force Wolf to make some really awkward decisions. You don't want to Gigantamax the Snorlax and then fall asleep and then lose a couple of valuable turns. You also don't want to switch out because you've just belly drummed. You've just got your berry for it. And, you don't want to lose that at all. It doesn't look like there's going to be any switches, though. So Wolf not too scared of this Yawn at all.
No, just wants to go full on the offensive here. Goes for a massive double edge into Togekiss. Picks up the KO. No more yawning or redirectioning for Ashton. You can see the big recoil as well that Snorlax takes as the Dusclops follows up with a Nightshade. So going to break the Focus Sash on Excadrill and do about a quarter damage as Excadrill retaliates with an Iron Head. Thanks to the Swords Dance boost does almost half, but you can really see the bulk there of the Dusclops. And I like this from Wolf because he's not switching out. He's still going to try and use the offensive pressure that he's built up with that belly drum, but he's not necessarily wasting Dynamax turns. He's maybe preserving them for a Pokemon he's got in the back.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the best of both worlds, right? You get to take advantage of the belly drum boost and deal enough damage to knock out a Togekiss. That's really nice, but you didn't commit to the Gigantamax and then fall asleep while you Gigantamax. So a really kind of good balance. There are obviously other options on Wolf's team that can Dynamax or Gigantamax and cause problems of their own, so I like that play from him. I think it's given him the best opportunity, put him in an early Pokemon count, and honestly, that Dusclops just showing why it's such a popular Pokemon in this format. Taking a Swords Dance boosted Iron Head from Excadrill at above half health, yeah, you've got to be feeling pretty good about that one.
Yeah, exactly. And Dusclops still sitting on the field, able to now go for some potential ally switch mind games later on here. So maybe trying to take some more of those damages from the Excadrill. Of course, Incineroar coming in can go for a fake out into that opposing Snorlax, but there's no point. It's going to have to sleep in this turn. So really, Dusclops is the target, unless you can predict what Wolfe is going to switch. If he does decide to switch on that Snorlax, maybe you could catch a Hatterene on the switch and with an Iron Head from Excadrill.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the dream right now, is say, okay, if you take your Snorlax off the field, I'm going to have to punish you for that decision and hit a knockout or a near knockout on the way in. I don't know if Wolf's going to give him that opportunity right now, though, as Ashton decides he kind of needs to up the ante and get his own Dynamax into play, even though the Trick Room is already up. We know because of the switch that it's not going to be the Dragapult this game, and actually after the Swords Dance, he says, you know what, Excadrill's probably the way to go.
Yeah, I absolutely love this play here for my Ashton because he's not threatened by either of the Pokemon here. Snorlax is going to be taking a nap, and Dusclops can only really go for Nightshade. And when you're Dynamax, you really actually lower the sort of impact of that move as well due to the extra HP that you've got. So Excadrill here going to go for a powerful Max Quake, targeting down into that Snorlax is enough to pick up the KO, and that's going to help the Dragapult that's just switched in against that Hatterene as well. Hatterene, a really well-known special attacker, so if you get your special defense boosted up, you might be able to take a turn of Dazzling Gleam. You proc your weakness policy, and if Dragapult's able to hang around through Trick Room, it's going to be dealing out some really destructive damage.
Yeah, and there's the Hatterene, as you mentioned. Probably going to be getting, Gigantamaxed in this case, making sure it can deal the damage that Snorlax really wasn't given that opportunity to do so. I do think it's a really nice change to bring that Excadrill in the Dynamax form and start getting the boosts that you need to push on through the end of this game. That said, that doesn't leave Dragapult in the best position. As we saw in the previous game, he really liked being able to max guard his Dragapult, and with that option taken off the field, so much more rides on this Excadrill, especially knowing that the fourth Pokemon is Incineroar, which only has limited kind of damage potential.
Yeah, we can see that Dragapult's not packing Protect, so it's going to be really vulnerable against this Hatterene if it's staying on the field. So it might want to take the advantage of that special defense boost and just try and deal out some damage as best it can. But Wolfe, having preserved his Dynamax, if he Dynamaxes up this Hatterene into its G-Max form, it's going to be able to deal a huge amount of damage, particularly in Trick Room as well. Going to be confusing both of the Pokemon on Ashton's side, and I'm not sure that one special defense boost is going to be enough to protect the Dragapult from a G-Max Smite.
No. I just don't see how one special defense boost is going to be enough without the kind of boost in health from the Dynamax as well. The Dusclops keeping things a little bit chaotic with the ally switch, even though the Hatterene's still pretty obvious where it is and pretty obvious what it's going to do, just knock out that Dragapult. And Wolfe playing a fantastic game, even getting the lead that he wanted. Ashton's been able to kind of keep up, but this confusion on the Excadrill could be a really big issue.
Yeah, confusion can be really, really messy. Ashton here bringing back in his Incineroar. Going to be putting Incineroar, like I said previously, into a bit of a tricky position. It can't really go for Fake Out here. It's not going to be able to affect anything. But potentially could go for something like a Parting Shot into the Hatterene, and thanks to Magic Bounce, that would switch out the Gigantamax on Wolfe's side, just limiting his Dynamax turns. But you're going to have to do that around the speed of Wolfe's side of the field, and it's going to be a Max Flare coming up from that G-Max Hatterene straight away, picking up a KO against the Dynamax on Ashton's side. It's going to be no more Excadrill in this match.
Yeah, and that one really wraps it up for Wolfe here. Basically saying, you know what, my Snorlax wasn't going to be the carry in this game, wasn't going to deal all the damage. I had Hatterene in the back all along, and you're not really able to do much in retaliation to it. I mean, Incineroar is a very, very good Pokemon, but I just don't see it being able to knock out 3 Pokemon in return, even with those Flare Blitzes, even with the Trick Room ending. It's not going to be able to wade through all of these.
Yeah, definitely not, particularly in the sort of situation Wolfe has high need for himself here, because even if there's Snorlax in the back, it's going to be able to wake up, pick up some damage later on. And Incineroar here actually just going for the taunt, just wants to shut down the Dusclops here for these last couple of turns and leave everything up really for the Hatterene. Dusclops, however, reading into that, goes for a Nightshade, says, I know I can't deal as much damage as my partner here, but I can still take 50 HP off your HP so that I can get Hatterene to clean up the KO. And Wolfe manages to take game 2, bringing this to a game 3.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic adaptations from Wolfe, knowing what went wrong in game one, bringing a change.
Yeah, it really is one of the core move types you want to have throughout your team, but game 3 is going to be where it's at, and that's where we're going to find out who is going to be knocked out of the competition and who is going to be able to stay in and keep battling it out to try and get that champion crown of this Invitational. Wolfe changing it up again, but still going strong with that Trick Room with Dusclops and Hatterene, whereas Ashton sticking to what he knows here. It's the Togekiss and the Excadrill lead, and if you are that Hatterene, you're going to be worried about taking a potential Iron Head, so maybe there's going to be ally switch here, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. There's so many options with this lead. I love what Wolfe's done in saying, hey, Hatterene actually won me the last game. Why don't I just put Hatterene in the front and start applying that pressure early on? I really like that, and I also love that you've got Hatterene and Dusclops, that when you look at them, you've got to make such a tough prediction. Is there going to be an ally switch? Which one's going to trigger him? Which one can I shut down? Which one can I shut down if they ally switch? I think there's so much riding on Ashton's decision right now on, is he going to try to set something up? Is he just going to try and deal as much damage as possible? You know, we can obviously see a little preview of what's going to come, and he's really got to turn it up and try and deal with Wolfe's side of the field nice and early.
Yeah, I really wonder if there's going to be an ally switch here based on what Ashton has locked in. He's assuming no, but we'll have to find out if that's what Wolfe has gone for. Again, not even a yawn on that Togekiss was safe thanks to Magic Bounce on that Hatterene, really showing that it is such a good Pokemon in this form. It can really counter itself against so many different things. Wolfe, however, going for the Dynamax as well. Going to be on that Hatterene, of course. The Dynamax Dusclops is not helpful to many people. And Hatterene going to be able to apply some good pressure, but whether it maybe goes for a Max Guard in this situation and Dusclops sets up the Trick Room, we have yet to see. And I wonder if Hatterene's going to be able to make out the turn.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Togekiss knows what it needs to do. It needs to help out this Excadrill. There's no Max Guard, no ally switch, and the Max Steel Spike is just going to connect with the Hatterene, and that is not a great opening for Wolfe Glick. That is not what we want to see. You say, hey, look, we did see the Hatterene win me the game. I'm going to turn it into its Gigantamax form and try and carry with it again. But that's not the way to do it.
Oh, that's heartbreak for Wolfe there. I mean, he gets the Trick Room up. That's an environment that he likes. And if he's got Snorlax in the back, he has now got the potential to go for that belly drum strategy. But I think the critical thing here is not only has he lost his Hatterene, but he lost his Dynamax before he was able to do anything. It's not like Snorlax can come in here and he goes, hey, let's go for option B. Let's Gigantamax up my Snorlax. He can't do that anymore, and it's really limiting the bulk that he can have on his team and the offensive output. And that's just heartbreak there for Wolfe.
Yeah, that's a really, really rough start. I mean, also, you know, the Steel Spike's going to help out with some of those stats as well. I really like the way that he's been able to kind of set up in this game. And between games, I was saying, hey, the Excadrill didn't quite do enough for my liking in that last game. This game, Excadrill showing why it's such a vital point. I really like Ashton's decision-making there. He's kind of called Wolfe's bluff and said, I don't think you're going to ally switch. I don't think you're going to mess around at all. And just decided to start throwing out attacks. He does get to see some ally switch now, though.
Yeah, the Dusclops there going for the ally switch as the Snorlax does go for the belly drum. So Wolfe's sticking with kind of the only option he really has at this stage. If he wants to start picking up some big KOs, he needs to use the Trick Room turns to his advantage and try and get the Snorlax to do as much damage as possible. However, again, you have to worry about Togekiss and that Yawn stopping him in his tracks. Excadrill, though, first of all, going to go for another Max Steel Spike, targeting down into that Dusclops. Does over 50%, and now both of the Pokemon on Ashton's side will be at +2 defense as well. That is a stat that Snorlax does not want to see. It's going to have to put in even more effort after that belly drum boost if it wants to start picking up some KOs.
Yeah, I mean, this defense boost is going to be kind of, I guess, one of the ways to try and answer the belly drum boost, right? It's like, you can both boost your attack, but I'm just going to boost my defense and keep going in that way. And it looks like Ashton's just trying to get the absolute maximum he can out of this Excadrill. And we see the struggles that this Snorlax has when it's not able to Gigantamax.
Yeah, exactly. Togekiss able to survive that Iron Head, not a feat we usually get to see post belly drum, but it's able to hang on as the Excadrill does manage to get a KO now, boosting up to 3 defense for both the Togekiss and the Excadrill. It has, however, now finally had its Focus Sash broken, so it can potentially be KO'd, but probably not from a physical attack thanks to the defense boost. Indeedee revealed to be the 4th Pokemon for Wolfe, an interesting choice.
Yeah, an adaptation from previous games. We hadn't seen the Indeedee, we hadn't seen the Psychic Surge come into play, and that's going to be the end of Excadrill's Dynamax. This really is a tale of 2 Dynamaxes, right? In one, you got absolutely nothing out of it. You weren't able to deal with any kind of attacks in that regard. And on the Excadrill side, you got 3 big steel spikes off, you got 3 defense boosts, and you're looking a little more comfortable trying to deal with something like that Snorlax. I mean, we saw the Snorlax Iron Head after the Belly Drum, and that still wasn't enough to deal with the Togekiss. So really nice play there, and really to kind of make it worse, make it a little bit harder. Now we get the Incineroar and the Intimidate.
Yeah, Ashton really working hard here to counteract the effort that Snorlax put in here with his Belly Jump by going for an Intimidate here. Excadrill just going to protect, stall through another turn of Trick Room, which is quite wise, as the Snorlax goes for the double edge though, going to target the Incineroar that switched in, which of course doesn't have the defense boost, so will fall victim to that, which, to be honest, I don't think Ashton is too worried about in this situation, because it can't go for the Fake Out thanks to Psychic Terrain. It wouldn't be able to stall out another turn of Trick Room, and it gives him the free switch to bring in either the Togekiss or the Dragapult for when Trick Room ends. Reveal though, Mystical Fire is on that Indeedee. Ashton has to watch out.
Yeah, we saw Mystical Fire on a previous Indeedee in this tournament. It's one of those adaptations that kind of opened some doors, as we were just talking about. Fire-type moves are a really great offensive type to keep on your team, especially when your opponent's relying on a heavily boosted Steel type to try and get through, right? So really nice to be able to try and kind of fight back there. It's not going to help out with any of the stats that Excadrill's relying on, but it is going to be able to deal some damage, and the Focus Sash is broken. So if you could sneak a knockout that way, that'd be great. That said, the Togekiss comes back in, might be able to draw some attention away, as it's known to do, or really push Excadrill's damage over the edge. It's got 2 options, and Wolfe has to think about that before he starts committing which attacks. If he falls foul of a Follow Me, and he throws attacks at the Togekiss and leaves Excadrill to keep dealing more damage, that could really kind of seal up and close out this set.
Yeah, exactly, and I think knowing that you've got that Dragapult in the back as well, facing down against these 2 normal type variants as well, he's not going to be able to go for any of those ghost type moves, and will predominantly be relying on the Dragon type to Dragon Dance there. So if he's able to maybe pick some damage up with the Earthquake and just make Dragapult's job a little easier once it joins the field, that's really going to put Ashton in a great position. And with Togekiss going down to the Fire Punch there, it gives him the opportunity to bring that Pokemon in. Indeedee going for the Psychic in Psychic Terrain really doesn't do too much to that Excadrill. It's easily able to take that and goes for an Earthquake in return. As you can see, does a huge amount of damage to both of these Pokemon as Trick Room ends. This is the perfect time to bring in that Dragapult, and it just puts Ashton in a phenomenal position to start cleaning up this game.
Yeah, I mean, the Dragapult alongside the Excadrill, really not going to have too many problems. There's not many boosts on Wolfe's side of the field to help him out there. And I think Ashton's going to seal this one up. We do see another Fire-type attack thrown into that team in the Fire Punch on Snorlax. And the Togekiss absolutely does its job by keeping that away from the Excadrill, allowing it to Earthquake. And, you know, it's really a choice of which one wants to get the knockout. But Ashton's got the damage. There's no Trick Room available. So the Pokemon on Wolf's side of the field are going to have to do a lot to weather the storm.
Yeah, well, Dragapult going for those Dragon Darts, little Dreepies falling into action here. Not enough to pick up the KO against Snorlax, or Indeedee for that matter. So both his Pokemon survives that turn, but Snorlax not able to take the follow-up from the Iron Head there. Indeedee will be able to deal us some damage, but it looks like on the next turn, despite this Mystical Fire, it's going to be KO'd easily by another Dragon Dart from that Dragapult. So Ashton, after that phenomenal turn 1, was able to keep the momentum up, didn't drop his phenomenal lead he started with, and is able to take this game all the way.
Yeah, I mean, there was plenty of options on Wolf's team to kind of cause problems for that Excadrill Fire Punch, Mystical Fire, but managed to weather the storm of all of them. The Follow Me, because Wolf knows what's coming, as Dragapult lands a critical hit, Dragon Darts, just to seal up this set. Keep Ashton's tournament hopes alive here in the losers bracket and put former world champion Wolfe Glick out of the running.